We are not going to beat Donald Trump by using his tactics, by fighting him on his turf and his terms. That's never how we beat demagogues.
He's actually putting her in a threat situation. He's putting her at risk.
I said when I announced my candidacy, and I'll end with this, that I was running to restore the soul of this country. And I was being literal, not figurative. Did you see or hear Trump's rally last night? It was despicable. To stand and attack those 4 women in the way he did, talking about them going back home, the racist basic taunts.
Democratic presidential candidates quick to condemn the president's race-baiting campaign strategy, just not quite as clear on how they'll take him on and step in to fill the leadership void. Donna and the table are back. Donna, what spoke to you as the most powerful response that you've seen so far from either a candidate or a lawmaker?
Well, I mean, I think, for one, all of the candidates standing up and condemning both the president's remarks and his tweets and standing with these 4 women, but standing for America. And so that really strikes me. The difficulty is that I think that for Democrats, as much as they want not to respond to every single ridiculous thing that the president says, that they find themselves in a news cycle having to do exactly that and at the same time put together a forward-looking agenda for the country. And I don't think it's easy to do. I mean, today, House Democrats passed a $15 an hour minimum wage. We really should be talking about that, but instead we're talking about this.
Heilelmann, what do you think?
What do I think of what? What's the question?
I mean, the question on the table is, all right, I struggled to find Democratic response this morning. We looked for it. We culled through. They said there's no one on camera. I said, how can that be? You should look through their Twitter feeds. I struggled to find an aggressive, forward-leaning, rapid response to what happened last night.
Look, it's still, I mean, it's still unfolding, and so I'll just go back.
It's been 20 hours.
No, I understand. I'm just going back. Like, if you go back, I'm actually going to agree with you, because I think if you go back to, we looked back at this on Tuesday, and you saw all the Democratic candidates were on Twitter. You know, they're at their various forums in Iowa and elsewhere doing various things, and they all got on Twitter and said strong condemnatory things to the president. And, you know, obviously the story kind of eclipsed everything going on in the Democratic race, but kind of why should it, right? Why?
Exactly.
And you would think that, you know, what there wasn't in that, I'm still waiting. You know, we saw Joe Biden. I just want to give these guys a little time. But over the course of this week, what you haven't seen emerge from the Democratic field is someone who rose to the moment and stepped forward. You know, Pelosi dominated the stage to some extent with the resolution in the House, but we haven't seen someone come forward and dominate the stage in the Democratic field, taking Trump on or doing anything notably different than, you know, Trump is bad, he's a racist, we all want to take him on, we all have various ways of taking him on, but there was not a crystallizing moment for many of the Democratic candidates, and I think for a lot of Democrats who are out there looking at these candidates, they are shifting around their allegiances and their enthusiasms at various times and various moments, but there's still, I don't think there has yet emerged a candidate who has catalyzed or has consolidated the sense of, like, yeah, that's the one. And this was a moment where that might have happened, and, you know, we'll see. It may still, but as of right now, this week, it's not been like, here was the person who stepped forward into the breach, and you said, yes, that is the right person who to take Donald Trump on next year.
I watched Tom Friedman on the 11th Hour last night. He's got a column out and says Donald Trump's going to win, isn't he? This is the refrain I hear most often from Democrats and Republicans. Here's what's missing. Who is the Democratic leader who can say, this is a drop everything, get on an airplane, go to the steps of the Capitol, go to a central location in Des Moines, Iowa, go to New Hampshire, hold hands, even if you hate each other, and say, this is who we are. And stand there in a minority community and say, we are the party. How many are running? 30, 25? All 25, even the 2 that dropped out. Stand there together, hold hands, go to a minority community and say, we've got your backs. He led a racist chant. Why didn't that happen, Jason?
Because none of them have the gumption, the backbone, and the moral clarity to make these arguments. And that's what disgusts me.
I'm a freaking Republican.
It shouldn't take being a candidate to do it. That's the thing, Nicolle. That is what people worry about with Donald Trump being able to be reelected, because he has conviction, even if the conviction is wrong. And you've got too many Democrats who are worried about demonstrating conviction. Here's what I saw. I saw some tweets. I saw Bernie Sanders trying to raise money off of it. Yeah, my timeline's going to be on fire. But I thought it was horrible. Don't say it's terrible that the president's racist and then send me money. Say it's terrible that the president's racist and then move on. And it's not that I doubt that these candidates care about these issues. Pete Buttigieg, look, he had his McCain moment. He responded to somebody who said something racist last week. Senator Harris has said, she interviewed at the Root. She said, yes, Donald Trump is a racist. But if you can't say it in the moment, when you can't say it when it's scary, when you can't say it in the same week when you're preparing for next week's debates and you're also talking about the fact that, oh my gosh, my second quarter numbers came out, then what kind of president will you be? Then what will you say when you're the nominee?
Let me ask you something uncomfortable then. What explains all of the hand-wringing? Is it reluctance to wrap their arms around the 4 minority women he's targeting?
I think it's a mixture of that. I think it's also just cowardice. Look, you've got somebody like Joe Biden who, look, he started his campaign on, so he'll say so. You've got somebody like Senator Harris who's probably thinking, well, I don't want to appear to be the angry black woman. You got somebody like Pete who's probably like, well,
we're all angry.
Right, but they're thinking strategically instead of morally. That's the problem. Well, this is not a strategic issue. It's a moral national security issue. I don't think the Democrats get it.
Let me just say one more thing, Stengel, and then you can unload. Yeah. When John Kerry lost the 2004 election was the moment he said, I was for it before I was against it. When voters see you making a calculation and not reacting like a mother or a father or a neighbor, they're instantly turned off. And I saw, and unless I missed it, let me just put this out there. We culled the tape, we culled the Twitter feed. I may have missed it. There may have been something spectacular.
I didn't see it either.
But if they're making calculations, if they're like, oh, humana, today's student loan day, they're losing.
Well, let me make the counter argument. I mean, I don't think it's about cowardice. I think some of it is about the fact that they're not super talented political players who can rise to the occasion. I wish there were one too.
That's even more depressing.
I wish there were one too. The counter argument, and you've been making this for months, basically, you made it at the beginning of the show, our relentless daily coverage of this stuff both inures people to it, but also creates what social scientists call belief echoes. When we play that tape, and when you play that tape, you're creating a belief echo in all the people who see it, and they will remember that tape. They will not remember the thing that refutes it. Every social scientist shows that the initial claim is never rebutted by...
Well, we've never aired the initial claim. We've never aired his tweets or his attack on those 4 women. I mean,
so you could argue that in terms of both just style and what might be most effective, is someone who is incredibly calm, who talks about income inequality, that talks about education, that isn't actually going up against those chanting people and rebutting that, but talking about something that voters actually care about.
This is something else that bothers me, though. Certainly Bernie Sanders, certainly Elizabeth Warren. We've got several of these candidates who can't wait till next year if they're the nominee, because they'll have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez campaigning with them. They will use these women in order to become successful with certain groups of the population, but they won't come to their defense in probably the most dangerous time of their freshman political careers. That is cowardice to me. That is dangerous. If you cannot stand up for your colleagues in the midst of an actual attack by the President of the United States, why should I believe that you will defend me as an American citizen?
I've also been surprised and depressed about people not... Because that seems like an ordinary reflex. In fact, I think back to the Colin Powell line on Meet the Press about Barack Obama when he was about, well, there's all these people who think he's Muslim, and he said, well, so what if he is a Muslim? I mean,
exactly.
That's what I mean. A larger version of that should have been what Democrats were doing.
Last word.
I'm going to say something now that's a piece that's just a fact. I'm not advocating this point of view, okay? So I'm just going to tell you what. There's not a member of the Democratic consultant class, people who run campaigns, who look at poll numbers, and who are professional strategists, who has not been saying to every one of these candidates since the first debate, the party looked dangerously left on the stage in Florida. We got to be careful. I'm telling you what the strategic class is telling them. We have to be careful. What Donald Trump is trying to do is capitalize on that and then paint you into a corner by associating you with this wing of the party. You all need to be careful. This is just going to reinforce Jason's point of view. But that's what they've been hearing. That's what all of their strategists, all their pollsters, and I don't mean just the ones in the center. I mean across the spectrum. Every candidate has been hearing, this is dangerous for you. If you ally yourself too closely with these women, you are playing into Donald Trump's hands. He's doing some magic political juju here. And I think part of their timidity comes to do with the fact that that is the thing they've been hearing for the last month. And it's not a small part, I think, of why no one is racing to seize this moment. Right. Because they're hearing, that's what's echoing in their head right now.
Go ahead, Donna.
Nicolle, look, I'm going to just say this straight to the camera and say it to Democratic candidates. If you don't stand with black and brown people today, don't expect them to stand with you come November 2020. And you better get that picture now, because those are people that you depend on to win an election, and they will not stand with you if you do not stand with them.
Thank you, my friend. After the break, brand new evidence released today.